Star Wars is more than a film. It's a cultural phenomenon that birthed one of the biggest franchises in history. What began as a humble fairy tale set in a galaxy far, far away grew into a multimedia juggernaut. But in 1977, such prolonged success wasn't guaranteed. After the monumental success of the original film, its creator, George Lucas, faced an unexpected challenge: the fear of irrelevance. What if audiences moved on, leaving behind the universe and characters that had taken nearly a decade to bring to life? In an attempt to keep the flame burning, a decision was made. A decision that nearly extinguished the spark entirely. Welcome to the Star Wars Holiday Special. May 25th, 1977. Star Wars explodes onto the scene, greeted by universal acclaim, overwhelming enthusiasm, and unprecedented box office success. Becoming the highest grossing film of all time, Star Wars dethroned the previous record holder, 1975's Jaws, with ease. The success of the film surprised everyone, especially Lucas, who now found himself the envy of Hollywood. Everyone wanted a piece of the Star Wars brand, and Lucas's company, Lucasfilm, found itself with a mountain of offers from various licensees with ideas for products. Among these offers came a proposal from CBS, a full-length variety special, featuring returning cast members, musical numbers, and an assortment of comedic sketches. While such a pitch might seem bizarre by today's standards, it wasn't so outlandish in the 1970s. Variety shows were a staple of American television, dominating the airwaves with hits like the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, Saturday Night Live, and The Muppet Show. These programs catered to audiences hungry for dynamic, small-screen entertainment. In fact, Star Wars had already dipped its toes into the variety format, with a peculiar appearance on The Donnie and Marie Show, complete with dancing stormtroopers and an unsettling song that wouldn't feel out of place in an indie horror game.
May tomorrow be a perfect day. May you find love after all the way.
For Lucas, the offer from CBS wasn't just a product of the era, it was a potential solution to a growing concern: the fear that Star Wars might become a passing fad. In the late 70s, sequels were far from guaranteed successes. More often than not, they struggled to replicate the magic of their predecessors and often delivered diminishing returns. Lucas compounded these risks by choosing to take 3 years, rather than the industry standard 2, to develop the sequel. To further complicate matters, Lucas decided to personally finance much of the sequel's production. As development costs for the sequel soared, so did his anxiety. With his finances tied up in the sequel and an extended gap before its release, Lucas's concerns about maintaining Star Wars' relevance were understandable. The CBS special presented a tempting opportunity to keep the franchise in the public eye while potentially attracting new fans. With CBS given the green light, development on the Star Wars Holiday Special began in earnest. However, the initial optimism quickly evaporated as the project became a revolving door of creators, each eager to pass responsibility to someone else. Lucas, consumed with running Lucasfilm and developing The Empire Strikes Back, had little time to oversee the production. Writers Leonard Rips and Pat Proft could only sit down with Lucas for a single brainstorming session, during which they sketched out a loose story: Chewbacca's journey to reunite with his family for Life Day, a Wookiee holiday celebrating family, joy, and harmony. Lucas provided the writers with access to his extensive notes and Ralph McQuarrie's storyboards, which included concept art of the Wookiee homeworld. As Lucas attended only a handful of production meetings before stepping back, CBS were left to carry the bulk of the creative responsibility. Reflecting on the situation, Star Wars producer Gary Kurtz admitted, "It did start out to be a lot better with a different script. We had half a dozen meetings with the TV company that was making it. In the end, because of work on promoting Star Wars and working on the next film, we realized we had no time, so we just left it to them, had the occasional meetings, provided them with access to props and the actors, and that was it." With only a rough outline in hand, Rips and Proft drafted the first script. Writing for a family-friendly audience, they avoided violence and instead focused on wholesome themes. The script then passed to Bruce Valanche, a comedy writer with experience in the variety show format, having worked on the Paul Lynde Halloween special and the Donnie and Marie show, including the previously mentioned Star Wars themed episode. However, Valanche had little to no experience with space fantasy and clashed with Lucas over the concept of focusing the special on Wookiees who communicated entirely through grunts. In later interviews, Valanche admitted to relying on copious amounts of drugs during the writing process, a fact that, in hindsight, explains much about the film's surreal tone. As the teleplay underwent numerous rewrites, the increasing number of red flags were treated as checkpoints. One of these flags was that the returning cast of Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford wanted no part in the special. Much to their annoyance, their contracts obligated them to participate. In addition to the reluctant Star Wars cast, the production recruited several notable actors of the era, including B. Arthur, Art Carney, Harvey Korman, and the rock band Jefferson Starship. When filming began, the turmoil of pre-production escalated into outright chaos during production. David Akomba, a former film school classmate of Lucas, was hired to direct the project. However, Akomba's lack of experience with television's multi-camera setup, a format common in variety shows, led to significant delays. His struggles were most apparent during the filming of the cantina sequence, a grueling 24-hour straight shoot that put many of the performers through hell. Actors in alien costumes suffered from heat exhaustion, claustrophobia, and oxygen deprivation. B. Arthur's son, Daniel Sachs, who visited the set as a Star Wars fan, described the surreal sight of a nurse running around administering oxygen to the extras inside their suffocating alien masks. Clashing with the producers, the mounting tensions and production delays led to Akomba's departure, leaving the project over budget, behind schedule, and in danger of cancellation. To salvage the production, director Steve Binder was brought in. Binder, known for his work on Elvis Presley's '68 comeback special, described his role in the project as being akin to a fireman, tasked with extinguishing the chaos and pushing the special to completion. Binder had no creative control over the material, inheriting a script riddled with challenges. As the release date loomed, there was no time for significant revisions. CBS's prevailing sentiment became, how bad can it be? The Star Wars Holiday Special aired in the US in November 1978, drawing an estimated 13 million viewers. Despite this respectable number, it failed to rank among the top 10 shows for the night, losing out to The Love Boat and the miniseries Pearl. Viewership steadily declined throughout the special, turning a disappointing broadcast into an unmitigated disaster. The special was universally panned, leaving Lucas deeply embarrassed. Never again shown on TV, the film has since become a piece of pop culture infamy, existing only in bootlegs and the hazy memories of those who witnessed it live. If there's one word to describe the Star Wars Holiday Special, it would be embarrassing.
Come on, Mama, let's see a little smile. Come on.
Everyone involved in its creation would rather it vanish into obscurity, and have gone to great lengths to avoid discussing it. George Lucas himself famously quipped that if I had the time and a sledgehammer, I would track down every bootlegged copy of that program and smash it. The only person who seemed to embrace the hilarity of the special was Carrie Fisher, who would play it at parties when she wanted her guests to leave. But enough dancing around it. Let's dive headfirst into the hilarity and absurdity of the Star Wars Holiday Special.
That's it, I'm turning back. I know your family's waiting. I know it's an important day.
Right off the bat, the special's lack of budget is so painfully clear to see. It kicks off with a thrilling chase sequence, with Han and Chewie on the run from the Empire that shamelessly reuses footage from the original Star Wars, setting the tone for what's to come. Inside the low-budget cockpit, Harrison Ford delivers a performance so wooden and detached that I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the crew had a gun to his head just out of the frame. Through gritted teeth, Ford's Han Solo painfully delivers the setup. He and Chewie are evading Imperial forces in a desperate bid to get Chewie home in time for Life Day, a Wookiee holiday meant to celebrate family, joy, and harmony. After narrowly escaping through hyperspace, the special shifts to introducing its main characters via one of the most quintessentially 1970s tropes, the cheesy turn-to-camera smile. Mark Hamill looking eerily like a plastic Ken doll brought to life, and Carrie Fisher exuding the dazed energy of someone who definitely indulged a little too much before shooting are my personal highlights. From start to finish, this absurd introduction of the special is so spectacularly bad that it's shocking, and we're only just getting started. If you thought reusing shots from the original film was lazy, brace yourself, because instead of creating original visuals, the special resorts to brazenly inserting Ralph McQuarrie's concept art as an establishing shot of Chewie's home. McQuarrie, whose designs are as foundational to Star Wars as Lucas's vision, had originally created this artwork as part of early development for the sequel, which at one point early on was planning to visit the Wookiee homeworld. Rather than drawing inspiration from it, the creators of the special simply just slapped it on screen with zero effort to integrate it meaningfully. We're then introduced to Chewie's family, his wife Mala, his father Itchy, and his son Lumpy. While the original film's design philosophy sought to create a universe that felt alien yet grounded in familiarity, the special flip-flops between the two extremes constantly. Chewie's home looks like it was plucked straight from 1970s suburban America, a baffling choice that is clearly aimed at appealing to the target middle and upper class demographic. The absurdity escalates further when we get to the dialogue, because perhaps the most perplexing choice of all, and that's really saying something, is the absence of subtitles for the Wookiee dialogue. And this special is centered on the Wookiees. Imagine enduring an hour of this. As the family prepares for Life Day, they grow increasingly anxious over Han and Chewie's absence. To distract, or perhaps punish Lumpy, it's honestly hard to tell, Itchy decides to play a tape for him to watch. Now, as Lumpy settles in, I want you to take a moment and guess what kind of entertainment we're about to witness. Whatever you're imagining, I promise you, it is so much worse. Remember how I mentioned that the original film's design philosophy balanced the alien with the familiar? Well, this tape throws that balance completely out the window and plunges headfirst into the bizarre. This nonsensical, psychedelic dance sequence feels just utterly detached from reality. Up until this point, the special has been bad, painfully bad, but at least it was watchable. This scene, however, just catapults the experience into a new, dimension of awfulness. Like, who thought this would be a good idea? Was it meant to be funny, artistic, entertaining? It's impossible to tell, because the only reasonable reaction to this sequence is a mixture of horror and just sheer bewilderment. This moment just perfectly encapsulates the core problem with the Star Wars Holiday Special, beyond simply just being awful. It reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what makes Star Wars so magical. At its heart, Star Wars resonated with audiences because of its ability to balance mythical storytelling, compelling characters, and a richly immersive universe. The special, however, tosses these elements aside in favour of an incoherent patchwork of tonal shifts, baffling creative decisions, and forgettable filler. While Star Wars is now a cultural juggernaut with a clear, defined identity, the special highlights that, in 1978, the franchise was still finding its footing. This lack of definition gave the special free rein to experiment wildly, but the result is a jumbled mess that fails to capture the magic and wonder that made Star Wars an instant classic. Still unable to contact Chewie and Han, Marlo and Itchy decide to call Luke, who brings the energy of a man begrudgingly answering a relative's phone call.
What's that? Oh, R2, look. It's Chewbacca's family.
Much like Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill clearly wants no part of this, delivering a lifeless performance that gives the special absolutely nothing to work with. To make matters worse, the creative decision to have Luke stare directly into the camera is just bizarre, especially considering when this choice is never used again when someone's on the phone to the Wookiees. What adds even more to the unsettling nature of this scene is how overdone Hamill's makeup is. He looks like a ventriloquist dummy brought to life. After Luke reassures them not to worry, with all the enthusiasm of a hostage video, Marla and Itchy decide to check in on a local trading post. Now, how exactly they're able to access the trading post's camera system, complete with dynamic angles and cuts, is a mystery just best left unexplored, because frankly I don't have the mental bandwidth to unpack that. Huh, that sounds familiar. At the trading post, we meet Art Carney as trader Sawn Dan, who's serving an off-duty Imperial officer, with the performance of someone who's trying to hide the fact that they've had one too many glasses of blue milk.
I suppose you want to see my identification?
No, I'm off duty. I've come to look around your shop.
Oh, good.
In what can only be described as deeply boring, Sawn shows the officer a miniature aquarium and a gadget he calls a groomer.
What's the matter? Would you like this?
It's just a groomer.
Just a groomer.
A groomer.
Just a groomer, you say?
Why? Is this supposed to be funny? What are we even doing here? Strangely enough, this trading post subplot offers a rare glimpse into how the Empire interacts with the everyday citizens of the galaxy, something the films barely touch on. But any potential intrigue is swiftly undercut when the officer demands the groomer, and we're left with whatever this is.
Now, would you like to pay me something for it, or give me something in trade?
The shameless repurposing of Star Wars footage continues, with the special introducing Darth Vader using a deleted scene from the original film. Vader only appears briefly in the special, so at least one character managed to escape its full cringe-inducing clutches relatively unscathed. Meanwhile, back at the Wookiee home, even with the possibility that Chewie and Han have been captured, or worse, Marla still has to put food on the table. A Wookiee's work is never done. Enter the infamous cooking show scene, where Marla tunes into a culinary program hosted by what can only be described as a galactic drag queen.
Hello.
The recipe of the day? Bantha surprise. Confusing? Just wait, it gets worse.
But only you know the size of a bite in your family, eh? All right.
This segment drags on for an agonizing, uninterrupted 4 minutes. To make matters even more baffling, there's no music to accompany the scene, leaving this awkward silence that just amplifies the absurdity.
Step 1, we stir the mixture. Stir, 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 stir. Stir, 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 stir. Very nice. Now, step 2, while we're stirring, we also whip. So it's stir, whip, 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 stir.
The supposed punchline comes when it's revealed that the flamboyant chef has 4 arms, an attempt at humour that falls flat on its face. Meanwhile, Han and Chewie encounter an Imperial convoy, and the special's over-reliance on Star Wars footage sinks to a new low. Reusing shots from the original film to bolster the special's quality is one thing, but recycling the exact same shot of TIE fighters multiple times within a single sequence? It's not even trying. Back at Chewie's home, Sawn Dan visits the Wookiee family, bringing along gifts for everyone. Lumpy eagerly takes his present upstairs, and okay, I'll admit it, the toy Bantha is actually pretty cool. Small victories, I guess. While Lumpy and Marla excitedly open their gifts, Sawn Dan presents Itchy with a gift that completely derails the family-friendly vibe of the special. Sitting him down on his private chair, Grandpa Itchy is gifted an extended, soft-core VR experience.
I exist for you. I am in your mind as you create me. Oh, yes. I can feel my creation. I'm getting your message. Are you getting mine? Oh, we are excited, aren't we?
Violence in a family special? Absolutely not. Awkwardly long softcore pornography? Yeah, go on. And yet, as bizarre and uncomfortable as this moment is, it somehow isn't the worst part of the sequence.
we could only bend this minute, infinitely extend this minute, then I could live my whole life right now.
With Chewie and Han still missing, Marla decides to call C-3PO and Princess Leia for help. Leia, who appears to be doing her taxes, checks in briefly. There's little to say about this scene, as it essentially mirrors Luke's earlier call. However, thanks to 3PO acting as an interpreter, the conversation becomes even more drawn out and tedious than it needs to be.
She says that she would like to grant your request, but is quite unable to do so.
You mean they haven't arrived yet?
She says there has been no contact.
Yes, I think I understand her message.
Meanwhile, Han and Chewie manage to evade the Imperial patrol, but are forced to land farther away from Chewie's home to avoid detection. As the Millennium Falcon's familiar roar echoes above the Wookiee's home and the family begins celebrating, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is the climactic moment where the special finally wraps up.
Are you serious?
Instead, stormtroopers invade the Wookiee's household, leading to a prolonged, awkward standoff where no one says anything. It's clear the scene is trying to build tension, but like most things in this special, its intentions crash and burn. The Imperials begin searching the home for Chewie, providing the special yet another opportunity to explore something meaningful, the oppressive nature of Imperial occupation. The parallels between the Empire's rule and real-world concerns like American militarization were well presented in the original film. Here, with the Wookiee home being so clearly modelled after the idyllic American dream, the setup was perfect to make a compelling critique. Anyway, here's a 4-minute Jefferson Starship music video. With the Imperials still searching the house, Lumpy keeps getting in the way. To keep him occupied, the family decides to put on an animated short. Amazingly, this short is easily the best part of the special, but that's an extremely low bar to clear. The short follows Han, Luke, Leia and the droids, which immediately raises a glaring question. Why is there an in-universe animated show about them? Is it rebel propaganda? If so, playing it while your house is being searched by Imperials is a spectacularly bad idea. Flawed premise aside, the animation itself is surprisingly solid, until you get to the character designs. Leia looks pretty normal, but Luke's bizarrely over-chiseled face is just haunting. And then there's Han, who looks like he's just suffered a stroke. Despite its oddities, the short does have historical significance. This marks the world's very first appearance of Boba Fett, as Lucas wanted to introduce the character ahead of his role in the sequel. For all of its faults, the animated segment delivers a few genuinely engaging moments. The thick, soupy texture of the alien planet they explore, for instance, is an inspired and atmospheric touch. While Lumpy is engrossed in his rebel propaganda cartoon, the Imperials ransack the Wookiee household. My personal highlight of this sequence is the particularly angry stormtrooper, who seems to harbour a personal vendetta against this shelf. After demolishing Lumpy's room, the lead officer sternly orders the kid to go back in, following it up with one of the strangest lines ever uttered.
That will keep him busy for a while.
What? Why does he care if Lumpy is kept busy? Did the Imperials destroy a children's room just to upset him? And why is it said to Marla in such a bizarrely knowing way? Honestly, by this point, the sheer absurdity of this special has numbed me. What is there even to analyse?
Try not to rip it open, because it makes a very handy storage case for your tools until you need them again.
Then, for reasons beyond comprehension, so pretty par for the course so far, the Imperials paused their raid to watch an official broadcast, live on Tatooine. This sequence takes us back to the Mos Eisley Cantina, featuring a mix of costumes recycled from Star Wars and a few new ones crafted for the special, though the difference in quality is glaring. Seriously, one of these new aliens is literally a giant rat. Now, picking a worst moment from this train wreck is difficult, but for me, this scene is certainly up there as a frontrunner. It opens with a man with a hole in his head, let's call him Volcano Man, attempting to flirt with the cantina's bartender, played by B. Arthur. And the on-screen chemistry is about as electrifying as Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman's.
I'm sorry I couldn't get back before.
Before what?
Until now. Until tonight, I thought about it a dozen times, but I had to be sure.
Excuse me, I have a customer waiting. I'll be right back.
I don't know what it is, but the visual of the man pouring liquid into his head just deeply upsets me. I can't explain it, it just makes me super uncomfortable. Oh, and remember, this is required Imperial viewing. The Empire is forcing its citizens and its military to watch a volcano-headed man strike out with a bartender. No wonder the rebellion exists. The sequence escalates as the Imperials impose a sanction on the cantina, prompting B. Arthur's character to close the establishment. Why the galaxy's most infamous hive of scum and villainy would care about Imperial rules is anyone's guess. There's no Imperial presence in the bar to raise the stakes, but you gotta do what the man on the wall screen says, I guess. The scene then culminates in the worst musical number of the entire special, and that's saying something. At least the other musical numbers were visually interesting. Here, we're just watching a lady half-heartedly kick out customers for 4 minutes.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems.
And then, as if the tedious musical number wasn't enough, the sequence ends with a volcano-headed man popping out from under the bar to surprise the bartender. I think it's supposed to be funny, but honestly it's a really ominous and slightly dark ending to an overall boring sequence. Required viewing over, the Imperials are ordered back to base, but the officer leaves a stormtrooper behind to capture Chewie. Now, out of the 2 stormtroopers, I have a hunch that they left the angry one behind. How do I know? Educated guess. When he inevitably chases Lumpy out of the house, Han and Chewie miraculously come to his rescue. Caught in a stalemate, Han jukes the stormtrooper, sending him tumbling over the railing in a heroic moment that would probably play better if we cared for any of these characters.
You're like family to me.
This touching family reunion crescendos into what we've all been waiting for, the long-awaited Life Day celebration. Clad in bright red robes, holding glowing orbs, and walking into the stars, Life Day gives off Heaven's Gate vibes more than it does an actual holiday. As the Wookiees gather around the Tree of Life, the production by this point was clearly out of money. Store-bought candles served as stand-ins for proper lighting, and the Wookiees donned cheap red robes instead of their usual full costumes to cut costs. The result is a finale that feels incredibly cheap and low effort. Speaking of low effort, the Star Wars gang all arrive to celebrate with Chewie and his family. Look at how happy they all are to be here. But the holiday special has one more surprise.
We celebrate a day of peace, a day of harmony, a day of joy we all can share together joyously. A day
Do it.
that takes
Do
us
it.
through the darkness.
Come on, come on. Kill me, I'm here, kill me. I'm here, kill me. Come on, kill me, I'm here. Come on, do it now.
To live, to laugh, to dream, to grow, to trust, to love, to
Finally, the special attempts to tie itself back to Star Wars by showing a recap of the original film's highlights, as if to remind the viewers that yes, this was somehow canon adjacent. With the festivities over, Chewie's family gather around the table to celebrate Life Day, a day about joy, love, and thankfulness. And, as the credits roll, I too am thankful that this fever dream is finally over. The Star Wars Holiday Special is without question one of the most baffling creations in the galaxy far, far away. It's laughably terrible, painfully lazy, and so utterly mind-numbing that you'd expect the Star Wars franchise to bury it deep in their vaults, never to be spoken of again. Yet, despite its deserved reputation as a disaster, Star Wars has chosen not to ignore it entirely. While the special itself remains conspicuously absent from Disney+, seriously, put it up there you cowards. The franchise has embraced the absurdity of Life Day, integrating it into various forms of media over the years. This approach is undeniably the right one. Acknowledging the failures of the past, no matter how embarrassing, adds depth and character to the franchise, turning a misstep into a charming, if perplexing, part of its legacy. Yes, the special is an unmitigated train wreck, but somehow, in its own bizarre way, even the holiday special enriches the galaxy far, far away.